Carla's office always smelled like expensive candles and smugness. I'd been running the Midwest sales territory for 3 years straight, breaking targets every quarter. I knew every client's quirks. Which ones wanted to talk fishing before business? Which ones preferred email over calls? Even who hated Monday deliveries. Today, Carla was in her high-backed leather chair, the Chicago skyline behind her like a smug backdrop. Ashley sat off to the side, legs crossed, scrolling her phone like she'd just gotten a breaking news alert. Except her face was too carefully blank. "Come in, have a seat," Carla said, clasping her hands on the desk. No small talk. Bad sign. I sat, keeping my voice even. "What's going on?" She gave a sympathetic smile I'd seen her use on clients she planned to dump. "We're making some adjustments to the sales team." Ashley's thumbs kept moving. She didn't look up. Carla continued. "We're bringing in Tyler, you remember him, Robert's son, to take over your territory." I stared at her. "Tyler, as in your friend's kid?" She nodded, like I'd just solved a crossword clue. "He's 23, full of fresh energy. I think our clients will really respond to his enthusiasm." Fresh energy. Right. I thought about the 5-state territory I'd built up. The clients who trusted me because I'd shown up at their plants in snowstorms. The contracts I'd fought for when competitors undercut us. But sure, let's replace that with a guy whose biggest achievement was probably a group project in college. Ashley shifted in her chair, still pretending to read her phone. She knew, she'd known before I walked in. The tightness in my jaw turned into something heavier. Carla leaned back, her tone syrupy. "We just need a new approach, younger voice, new ideas." "Does Tyler have any experience?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. She waved a hand. "He's eager to learn. That's what matters." No. What mattered was that she could do a favor for her friend, and my 3 years of results didn't factor into it. I stood, buttoning my jacket. "So, when does this adjustment happen?" "Monday," she said, smiling like we'd just scheduled lunch. "You'll have time to get him up to speed." Ashley finally looked up, but only for a second. Not at me, just at the floor, like she was checking for a loose thread. "Great," I said flatly. Wouldn't want Tyler starting without my expert tips. I walked out before Carla could code it in more fake kindness. My footsteps echoed down the hall, and I could already feel the weight of every client's handshake I'd just been told didn't matter. I walked back to my office, the carpet swallowing my footsteps, but not the shift in the air. News travels fast here. Not a single pair of eyes met mine. Suddenly, everyone had something urgent on their screens. I shut my door and took a slow look around. My office wasn't much, but it was mine. Small, neat, organized the way only someone who lives on the road knows how to keep things. On the top shelf sat a fishing lure in a glass box, a gift from Jim in Wisconsin after I saved his account from a competitor. Next to it, a signed baseball from a manufacturing VP who swore it was the only thing on his desk that wasn't paperwork. Every piece had a story, and I could picture the handshake that came with each one. I slid open the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out the black binder. Beat-up cover, corners worn soft, spine holding on by pure loyalty. Inside, my gold mine. 3 years of personal notes on every account I'd touched. Anniversaries, kids' names, preferred delivery windows, who took cream in their coffee, who hated small talk. This was more valuable than any CRM file they'd feed Tyler. I thumbed through a few pages, felt the weight of it in my hands, and slid it straight into my backpack. Not for Tyler, not for anyone who hadn't earned it. The knock came soft but quick. The door cracked open and in leaned Tyler. Fresh haircut, a tailored suit that probably cost more than my last vacation, and a grin like he'd just been told the job was his because of talent, not connections. "Hey man," he said, stepping in without waiting for an invite. "I'm pumped to meet your guys." I zipped my backpack. "They're all yours." His eyebrows went up, maybe at my tone, maybe because I didn't offer tips or a warm welcome. Cool. I'm sure they'll love the energy I bring." "Energy's important," I said, standing. "Let's hope it's enough." For a second, his grin faltered. He recovered fast, gave a short nod, and ducked back out. I took one last look at the office. The shelf was bare except for a plan I didn't care about and a stack of company memos I'd never read. I slung the backpack over my shoulder, flicked off the light, and stepped into the hallway. No one said goodbye. 2 days later, my cell lit up with a number I knew by heart. One of my biggest accounts. I answered, expecting a casual check-in. "Hey," the client said, voice tight. "Is this Tyler kid supposed to be handling our file now?" "That's what I hear," I said. He couldn't answer a single question about our order history. Said he'd circle back. The pause on the line wasn't silent. It was irritated. "You always knew our specs. Always." I let that hang there. "I'm out of the loop now, but I'm sure he'll get it sorted." "Yeah," the client muttered. "We'll see." By Friday, Dean was blowing up my phone. Dean had been in the trenches with me for years. Now he was feeding me play-by-play from the inside. Wrong order forms sent to 3 accounts, his first text read. Then another, spelled Henderson wrong on the invoice, twice. An hour later, missed a scheduled call with Patterson, blamed his calendar. I shook my head, half in disbelief, half in inevitability. This wasn't a matter of bad luck. It was someone trying to wear boots 3 sizes too big. Late that afternoon, Dean forwarded me an email blast Tyler had sent to all 40 of my old accounts. The subject line, "Congrats, Michael." I laughed out loud. Michael, the client in question, was a stickler for details. He once made a vendor reprint 200 brochures over a missing comma. I could have let myself gloat. Instead, I grabbed a stack of blank cards and started writing. Each one was simple, handwritten, personal. "Remember that trade show in 19 when the power went out and we ran our booth on a generator? How's your daughter doing at Purdue? Still think about that chili recipe you gave me?" Nothing about business, everything about the person. Once the cards were done, I headed to the kitchen, pulled out the spice mix, the brown sugar, the good beef. My barbecue jerky had been a staple at every trade show booth I'd run. Clients looked for it before they looked for me. By the time the last batch came out of the dehydrator, the house smelled like mesquite and pepper. I packed each bag with a thank you card, sealed the boxes, and stacked them by the door for morning shipment. Ashley came in just as I was printing labels. "What's all this?" "Care packages," I said without looking up. Her brow furrowed. "You can't contact clients directly. You know that, right?" "I'm not contacting clients," I said, taping up another box. "I'm thanking friends." She stood there for a beat, then let out a quiet, and walked away. I didn't bother explaining further. People who understand relationships don't need the explanation. People who don't will never get it. Within a week, the first replies started trickling in. Not just polite thank yous, real, genuine notes. Photos of my jerky half-eaten on a kitchen counter, a text from Joe Patterson saying, "Still the best damn snack at any trade show." That was all the push I needed. The next round of packages got personal. Joe got a monogrammed leather notepad for his hunting trips. The Morales brothers, hot sauce fanatics, got a bottle of a rare blend they had once raved about over lunch. For the Henderson team, a year's subscription to Field and Stream because I remembered their Friday fishing club. I didn't send a single generic gift. Every box was a memory, wrapped and shipped. The responses rolled in faster this time. Photos of the notepad sitting next to a campfire. A picture of the Morales brothers holding up the hot sauce like a trophy. Offers to grab lunch when you're free, which I knew wasn't about lunch at all. Dean kept feeding me the inside play-by-play on Tyler. He pitched a TikTok campaign to a 72-year-old estate planner, Dean texted one morning. Guy didn't even know what TikTok was. I smirked. "How'd that go over?" Client said, "Call me when the adult's back." 2 days later. Tyler tried to upsell Henderson on a product they already buy from us, for less money. The icing on the cake came on a Tuesday. My phone buzzed. Dean again. "You'll love this. Tyler just locked himself in the bathroom." I called him. "You're kidding." "Wish I was. Client asked for you by name." He panicked, mumbled something about checking the file, and bolted. "What client?" "Morales Brothers. They were not impressed." That was worth a drive. I showed up at the office under the excuse of checking in. The receptionist gave me a quick nod, like she wasn't sure if I was welcome or not. Dean met me near the break room, grinning. "They're still talking about it," he said. Morales told Tyler his ideas were borderline insulting and asked if he even knew their business. And then, "They asked for your personal number. Tyler, well, that's when he disappeared." We both knew that wasn't just a bad day. That was a fracture. And once a client sees the crack, they never forget it. I didn't go looking for Tyler. I didn't need to. The damage was already done, and not by me. When I left, I had no product samples, no sales pitch. Just my black binder in the passenger seat and a list of lunches I suddenly had time for. That night, I was on the couch flipping through channels when Ashley walked in, holding the cordless phone like it was a live grenade. "It's Mom," she said. "You should take this." Her tone was flat, but her eyes had that quick, nervous flick. I took the phone. "Hello? Why are my clients leaving?" Carla's voice hit me like a slap, high-pitched, frantic, nothing like her usual calm. "I just got off the phone with Patterson and Henderson Manufacturing's moving their files. What is going on?" I leaned back, resting my arm on the couch. "You'd have to ask Tyler." "Don't be smart with me," she snapped. "These are accounts we've had for years. They're saying they don't feel comfortable anymore, that they want someone who knows them." "That's interesting," I said slowly, "because I did know them, for 3 years straight." She ignored the jab. "We've got all the information in the CRM, every order, every contact detail." "Carla," I cut in, "the info in a CRM isn't the same as years of trust." There was a pause. I could almost hear her shifting in her chair. "But all the facts are in the files." "Files don't have feelings," I said. "Files can't remember who lost a son in 2020 or who needs an order pushed early for a grandson's graduation. Files can't sit in a freezing plant at 5 in the morning to make sure the loading dock crew gets coffee before a rush." The silence on her end stretched. Finally, she asked, "So, what are you saying? That Tyler can't do the job?" "I'm saying you gave him a list of names and numbers. I had relationships." More silence. The panic in her voice had dulled, replaced by something heavier. "Well," she said at last, "thank you for taking the call." "That it?" I asked. "For now." She hung up before I could answer. I set the phone down on the coffee table. Ashley was still standing in the doorway, arms crossed. "She sounded bad," she said. "She's starting to get it," I replied. Ashley didn't respond, but she stayed there a moment longer before heading to the kitchen. 2 mornings later, I was chopping onions for stew when I heard a knock at the front door. It wasn't the polite 3-tap kind. It was heavier, like someone working up the nerve. I opened it to see Robert, Tyler's dad, standing there in a windbreaker and looking like he'd slept in his truck. "Got a minute?" he asked. I stepped aside. "Sure." He followed me into the kitchen, eyes darting around like he was afraid Ashley might overhear. I went back to the cutting board. "Tyler's struggling," he said finally. "He's trying, but he just can't seem to connect with these accounts." I kept my tone even. "That's a tough thing to fake." Robert rubbed the back of his neck. I told him, "Just learn the clients. It's all in the system." "But it's not working. They don't open up to him. Half of them barely return his calls." "Robert," I said, setting the knife down, "when you met your wife, did you win her over by memorizing her favorite color? Or by actually paying attention to who she was?" He blinked at me, caught off guard. "Well, I listened to her." "Exactly. You can write down a birthday, but if you don't remember why it matters to them, it's just ink on paper. You can't spreadsheet your way into loyalty." He sank into a chair. The lines in his face looked deeper than I remembered. I thought enthusiasm would carry him. I didn't realize how much was built before he ever stepped in. "That's the thing," I said. "You can't inherit trust. You have to earn it." He nodded slowly, like the weight of it was finally landing. "I'm sorry this happened the way it did." I shrugged. "Not my call to make." Robert stood, hesitated, then offered his hand. I shook it, feeling how cold his was. "Thanks for being straight with me," he said. He walked out looking older than when he'd come in. I watched his car pull away, the taillights fading down the street. Then I went back to the cutting board. The venison had been marinating overnight, a gift from a hunting buddy client who'd called last week to see if I still made my stew. I tossed the onions in the pot, added the meat, and let the smell fill the kitchen. Satisfied, but not smug. Carla called that Friday, her tone sugary but tight, inviting Ashley and me to Sunday dinner. "Family only," she said, like it was some olive branch. Sunday evening, we pulled into her driveway. The dining room was set like a magazine spread, crystal glasses, silverware lined up like soldiers. Roast beef, garlic potatoes, the works. Ashley took her seat beside me. Carla floated around pouring wine, making small talk with Ashley about a holiday sale she'd seen online. I noticed the empty seat across from me. 10 minutes later, Tyler shuffled in, late and pale, his tie crooked. He mumbled a "hey" and sat down, barely touching his food. The room felt like it was holding its breath. We ate in awkward silence. Carla tried to keep the conversation moving, asked about the weather, the Bears game, anything but work. Tyler just pushed his potatoes around, the fork scraping the plate. Dessert came out, lemon pie, and halfway through his untouched slice, Tyler dropped his fork with a clatter. "This isn't fair," he said, looking straight at me. His eyes were red. "You're sabotaging me. Staying in touch with the clients, sending them things, keeping them on your side." I leaned back in my chair. Sabotaging sounds like they're making their own choices. Carla's voice cut in, sharp but controlled. "You need to be mindful of how your friendships affect the business. You know it's causing problems." I laughed once, not because it was funny. "So you're telling me caring about people, knowing their lives, their families, is a problem?" "No one's saying that," Carla said quickly. "But there's a time and place." Tyler slammed his hand on the table. "You're making me look bad. They keep asking for you, not me. I can't get ahead with you hanging over my shoulder." I stood, napkin in hand. "You're right, Tyler. I am making you look bad, by comparison, because I care too much to treat people like invoice numbers." Ashley froze beside me. Carla's mouth opened like she had something to say, but nothing came out. "I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm the problem," I said. "You wanted fresh energy? You got it. Now live with it." I dropped the napkin on my plate and walked out. Behind me, voices started overlapping. Carla's sharp tone, Tyler's cracked protest, Ashley calling my name once. I didn't stop. The night air hit me like a slap, cool and clean. For the first time in months, my shoulders felt lighter. Thanksgiving week, the mailbox started filling with more than bills and store flyers. The first envelope was from Joe Patterson. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thanks for remembering the little things. Nobody does that anymore." By Wednesday, there were 6 more. One had a photo of a golden retriever wearing the sweater I'd sent 2 winters back. Another came from the Morales brothers, a card stained with what looked like hot sauce. "You're still the only reason we put up with sales calls." Ashley sat at the kitchen table, reading a small stack of them. She didn't say anything for a while, just turned the pages like she was trying to find a trick hidden in the ink. "You know," she finally said, "a couple of these mention you taking on projects. They're asking if you are." I poured coffee. "I'm not advertising anything." She gave me a look. "You don't have to." More letters came in that Friday. Henderson Manufacturing thanked me for always showing up in person, even when it wasn't convenient. A retired client sent a photo of the fishing lure I'd given him, framed on his wall. Every one of them mentioned something Tyler could never fake. Time spent, details remembered, moments outside the transaction. Ashley flipped through the latest batch. "Mom's been hinting about bringing you back. She said maybe in a consulting role." I sipped my coffee. "She's not wrong that I'd be good at it. She's wrong if she thinks I ever left the work." Ashley tilted her head. "What's that mean?" I nodded toward the binder sitting on the counter. "The building didn't make me good at my job. The people did, and I'm still with them." She didn't argue. Instead, she gathered the letters into a neat pile and set them beside the binder, like they belonged together. The house was quiet except for the ticking of the kitchen clock. I thought about every handshake, every early morning doc visit, every cup of coffee shared with someone who mattered more than a quarterly report. They hadn't forgotten me, and I had never stopped remembering them. Dean's text came early Monday morning. Tyler cleaned out his desk Friday night, said he's pursuing other opportunities. I stared at the screen for a second, then set the phone down. No satisfaction, no punch the air moment, just relief. The kid was out of a role he never fit into, and maybe now he could find something that didn't chew him up. Half an hour later, my phone rang, Mrs. Morrison's number. "Well, look who's finally answering my calls," she teased. "How about lunch this week, just to catch up?" "I can do that," I said. "And bring that black binder of yours," she added. "I've got friends you need to meet." That made me smile. Binder's already in the truck. After the call, I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside. The November air bit at my face, sharp and cold enough to clear out whatever was left of the past few months. I sat on the porch, the binder beside me, flipping through a few pages. There was Joe Patterson's fishing trip from 2 years back, the Morales brothers' chili cook-off, Mrs. Morrison's grandkids' graduation, notes that had nothing to do with product specs and everything to do with why they picked up when I called. The truth settled in quiet and steady. My revenge hadn't been loud. There was no grand speech, no slammed doors, no viral takedown. It came in the form of jerky packed in wax paper, cards with crooked handwriting, and remembering the smallest details about people who mattered. Some victories don't need applause. They don't need a crowd to witness them. They just need the right people to remember you. And mine did.